Courtroom 3 of the Providence Municipal Court was busy as usual. On a cold Monday morning in November, the room was filled with cases involving traffic violations, minor offenses, and municipal infractions. Judge Frank Caprio, with the calm demeanor of his 42-year career, called the next case. "Now proceeding with the case of Michael Wilson," announced the court clerk. Those entering the courtroom first noticed a sharp odor, then the sight. Michael Wilson, or at least that was the name in the records, was a man in his 60s with long, disheveled hair and a graying beard. His clothes were torn and dirty. The soles of his shoes had separated, with pieces of cardboard inserted inside. He approached the bench with slow, unsteady steps. "Mr. Wilson, you are charged with unauthorized lodging in Providence City Park. It's also reported that you've been harassing visitors to the park," said Caprio, glancing over the file. "How do you respond to these charges?" Before Wilson could answer, the prosecutor, Lawrence Bennett, stood up. He was a sharp-eyed, impeccably dressed man in his early 40s. "Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to point out that according to police records, Mr. Wilson has been brought to court 5 times in the last 6 months for the same offense. Despite receiving warnings each time, he continues to use public spaces as his personal shelter. Moreover, park officials and visitors have reported his aggressive panhandling." Caprio looked at the prosecutor, then turned his gaze to Wilson. "Mr. Wilson, would you like to defend yourself?" Wilson cleared his throat. His voice was cracked and low. I didn't bother anyone, Your Honor. I was just looking for a place to sleep. It was very cold." Prosecutor Bennett impatiently interjected. "Your Honor, there are shelters available for the homeless in our city. Mr. Wilson refuses to use these resources. For the sake of public safety and welfare, we request a more deterrent penalty, at least 30 days of community service and a $500 fine." A lawyer sitting in the courtroom laughed. $500? Where's he going to get that kind of money? From his cardboard box? A few people snickered. Wilson's shoulders slumped, and he bowed his head. Judge Caprio's expression suddenly changed. He removed his glasses, placed them on the desk, and looked at those in the courtroom. Silence fell. "In this courtroom, I expect every person to be treated with respect," he said, his voice low but authoritative. "Mr. Wilson, like everyone in this room, has the right to maintain his dignity. Being in difficult circumstances does not justify humiliation." The lawyer turned red and averted his gaze. The courtroom fell silent. "Mr. Wilson," Caprio continued, "would you tell me a bit about yourself? How did you end up in this situation?" Wilson seemed surprised, as if he hadn't expected such a question. With trembling hands, he straightened his jacket. I used to be a construction worker, Your Honor. 15 years ago, I injured my back while lifting a heavy beam, lost my job. Then my wife died of cancer. Medical bills piled up. I lost everything." There was an uncomfortable stir in the courtroom. Prosecutor Bennett was impatiently tapping his foot. "Mr. Wilson, don't you go to the shelters?" Caprio asked. Wilson shook his head. "The shelters, they're not safe, Your Honor. I was attacked there last year. My things were stolen. And it's crowded. I'm afraid of enclosed spaces. I have panic attacks." Caprio nodded, looking thoughtful. "Are you receiving treatment for your health issues?" "I had a social services card, but I lost my ID documents. To get a new one, you need an address. I don't have an address." Caprio was silent for a moment, then turned to the court clerk. "Ms. Rodriguez, please call Rebecca Saunders from Social Services." "Right away," Prosecutor Bennett interjected. "Your Honor, we still need to make a ruling in this case. The laws are clear." "Yes, Prosecutor Bennett, the laws are clear," said Caprio, "and my duty is not just to enforce the laws, but to ensure justice. Mr. Wilson's situation doesn't call for a simple decision." Just then, the courtroom door opened, and an elegantly dressed woman entered. Rebecca Saunders was the director of Providence Social Services Department. "Judge Caprio," she said, nodding in greeting. "You called for me?" "Yes, Miss Saunders. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Wilson. He's homeless and has health issues. He's also lost his identification documents." Rebecca looked at Wilson, then turned to Caprio. "I understand. We can help." "Now, before I rule on this case," said Caprio, "I want to give Mr. Wilson a chance. Mr. Wilson, if you accept Ms. Saunders' help and commit to following a program to improve your situation, I can suspend this case. Wilson looked surprised. Really? You mean I won't go to jail? Prison is not a solution for someone with health issues like yours, Mr. Wilson. I want to help you, to reintegrate you into our community. But you'll need to make an effort too. Wilson's eyes welled up. Thank you, Your Honor. I'll try. I'll really try. Prosecutor Bennett slammed his table. Your Honor, this is unacceptable. This man has committed the same offense multiple times. What happens if he continues to break the rules? We're setting a bad example for society. Caprio looked at the prosecutor with a calm determination in his eyes. Prosecutor Bennett, justice is not just about punishment. Sometimes giving someone a real chance to change is what's needed. Mr. Wilson's situation doesn't require punishment, it requires help. But the laws, Bennett began. Laws are the tools of justice, not its purpose, said Caprio. And in this court, every person, regardless of their circumstances, will be treated with dignity. There was a silence in the courtroom, then someone in the back rows began to applaud. Others joined in. Prosecutor Bennett gathered his documents with an angry expression. Rebecca Saunders approached Wilson. Mr. Wilson, could we go to my office and discuss your situation? I'll do everything I can to help you. Wilson nodded, tears streaming down his face. Thank you. Thank you. I'm suspending this case for 90 days, Caprio announced. During this time, on the condition that Mr. Wilson complies with the social services program and submits regular reports. We'll reassess the situation after 90 days. Wilson turned to Caprio. Your Honor, why? Why are you helping me? Caprio smiled. Because everyone deserves a second chance, Mr. Wilson. And sometimes all we need is for someone to believe in us. After the court adjourned, a young journalist, Lisa Chen, approached Caprio. Judge Caprio, your decision today was unusual. Why did you make such a ruling? Caprio looked thoughtful. You know, Lisa, in law school, they teach us the laws, but they can't teach the sense of justice. That has to be inside you. What about Prosecutor Bennett's objections? Many people will think you were too lenient. Perhaps, said Caprio, but if there's one thing I've learned in my life, it's that mercy can sometimes change even the hardest hearts. Just then his cell phone rang. A young court officer approached him. Judge Caprio, your ruling on the Wilson case has gone viral on social media. A video of the hearing has been shared thousands of times. Caprio looked surprised. How? The court records. A visitor secretly recorded it and uploaded it. Everyone's talking about your speech and your response to the prosecutor. Lisa quickly started taking notes. This is going to be big news, Judge Caprio. People want to see more compassion in the justice system. Caprio looked uncomfortable. I was just doing my job, Lisa. Every case, every person is unique. We can't fit them all into the same mold. 3 months later, Judge Caprio reconvened in courtroom 3 of the Providence Municipal Court to reassess the Michael Wilson case. The room was more crowded than usual. Journalists, law students, and curious citizens had come to see the outcome of the homeless man case. Now proceeding with the case of Michael Wilson, announced the court clerk. The courtroom door opened, and those who saw the person entering began whispering in amazement. Michael Wilson was dressed in clean, proper clothes. His hair and beard were cut and combed. The lines on his face were still deep, but there was a liveliness in his eyes. Mr. Wilson, said Caprio, smiling. It's good to see you again. Thank you, Your Honor, said Wilson, his voice stronger now. I'm grateful for the chance you gave me. The reports I've received from Rebecca Saunders are very positive, Mr. Wilson. Would you tell us what you've been doing in the past 3 months? Wilson stood up proudly. With the help of social services, I first renewed my identification documents. Then I had a medical checkup. I'm receiving physical therapy for my back pain. And I'm staying in a transitional home. I also volunteer at a soup kitchen twice a week. Very impressive, Mr. Wilson. What are your plans for the future? Ms. Saunders found me a part-time job, Your Honor, in a carpentry workshop. I haven't started yet, but I will next week. And I hope to rent my own small apartment within 6 months. Approving murmurs rose in the courtroom. Even Prosecutor Bennett seemed impressed. Mr. Wilson, this court appreciates the progress you've shown. said Caprio. "I'm dismissing the charges of unauthorized lodging and panhandling. However, I'd like you to give back to the community in some way." "Of course, Your Honor. Whatever you ask. For the next 6 months, I'd like you to help with the maintenance of Providence City Park for 4 hours a week. Light duties like planting flowers, collecting trash, assisting visitors." A smile appeared on Wilson's face. "I'd be happy to do that, Your Honor. That park, it's actually a beautiful place. I had lost my way." "We all lose our way sometimes, Mr. Wilson. What matters is finding our way back." When the hearing ended, journalists surrounded Caprio. Lisa Chen stepped forward. "Judge Caprio, your decision 3 months ago was viewed millions of times on social media and sparked a major debate. Some judges have even started adopting similar approaches in their own courts. What do you think?" Caprio smiled modestly. "We all need just one chance sometimes, Lisa. Mr. Wilson's story is not extraordinary. There are thousands like him on the streets. They all deserve to be seen, to be heard as human beings." "Judge Caprio, you showed special interest in Mr. Wilson." "Why?" asked another reporter. Caprio thought for a moment. "Perhaps because any of us could be a Michael Wilson. Life is unpredictable. Some lucky decisions, some unlucky accidents, and everything can change." 3 years later, in a small carpentry workshop in Providence, Michael Wilson was sanding a wooden table. The workshop was small but orderly. Diplomas hung on the wall, carpentry certificates, and a photograph. Wilson and Judge Caprio smiling side by side. The door rang, and a middle-aged man entered. "Mr. Wilson, I'm Daniel Cooper from the Providence Gazette. Can I talk to you about the Second Chance program?" Wilson put down the sandpaper and wiped his hands with a cloth. "Sure, Mr. Cooper, what would you like to know?" "As the program's first graduate, I'd like to know what you've experienced in the last 3 years. And of course, your relationship with Judge Caprio." Wilson laughed. "Frank, he's my savior. I owe my life to him." "You now have your own business, is that right?" "Yes, a small carpentry workshop and an apartment. Not fancy, but it's mine. I also serve as a counselor in the Second Chance program. I help people who are in difficult situations like I was." "What about that viral video? What do you think about that court moment that changed your life?" Wilson looked at the photograph on the wall. "That day, Mr. Cooper, was both the worst and best day of my life. It was the worst because I had been so humiliated that I'd forgotten I was even human. And it was the best because someone saw me as a person, Frank. I mean Judge Caprio. He really saw me. Do you still see Judge Caprio?" Wilson smiled. "We have dinner once a month. He accepted me as part of his family. Last Christmas, he invited me to his home. I met his family. Wonderful people." "One last question, Mr. Wilson. Looking back now, what happened that day in court?" Wilson thought for a moment. "Justice happened, Mr. Cooper, but not the cold, rigid justice of the laws. Human justice, compassion, and sometimes that's all it takes to really change someone." That same evening, Judge Frank Caprio was watching television at home. The interview with Michael Wilson had been published on the Providence Gazette's website. Caprio read it with a smile. His phone rang. It was a young judge who worked in the court. "Judge Caprio, I'm sorry to bother you, but I had an interesting case today and I need your advice." "Of course, Jason, I'm listening." "A young woman is living in her car with her 3 children. She got a ticket for unauthorized parking. She can't pay. She's afraid of losing her children. The laws are clear, but I don't know what's right." Caprio smiled. "Jason, let me tell you something they didn't teach you in law school. Justice sometimes comes not from within the laws, but beyond them." "What should I do in your opinion?" "Give her a voice, Jason. Listen, really listen, and then follow your heart." After hanging up, Caprio looked out his window. The lights of Providence were shining. He remembered something his teacher once told him. "You can't change the world, but you can change one person's world. And sometimes when one person changes, then changes others, and they change others. Maybe, just maybe, the world can change too." A month later, a special ceremony was held at the Providence City Hall. It was the official opening of the Second Chance program. Among the founders were Judge Frank Caprio, Social Services Director Rebecca Saunders, and the once homeless carpenter Michael Wilson. The mayor had allocated a substantial budget to the program. It would provide vocational training, psychological support, and housing to the homeless and at-risk individuals. Caprio gave the opening speech. Sometimes justice isn't about punishing a person, but giving them a second chance. This program reminds us that every individual in our community is valuable. Everyone has a story. Everyone needs to be heard. And everyone, yes everyone, deserves a second chance. Then Michael Wilson took the podium. He now spoke with confidence. 3 years ago, a bench was my home. I felt invisible, like a ghost. Then one day a judge saw me, really saw me. That day my life changed. Now I want to see others too. I want to help them, because sometimes all a person needs is for someone to believe in them. The crowd gave a standing ovation. In the back row was Prosecutor Lawrence Bennett. Caprio noticed him and smiled. Bennett nodded, a slight smile on his face. After the ceremony, Bennett approached Caprio. "Judge Caprio, congratulations. The program looks impressive." "Thank you, Prosecutor Bennett. Your support means a lot to me." Bennett hesitated for a moment. "You know, that day in the Wilson case, I criticized you. I was wrong. Sometimes one can get lost in the system." Caprio put his hand on Bennett's shoulder. "We all have the same goal, Lawrence. A better society. We just have different methods." Maybe I should start thinking a bit more like you," Bennett said quietly. Caprio smiled. "And perhaps I should sometimes think like you. Balance is important. The balance between justice and mercy." The two men shook hands. That night on the streets of Providence,